Captain Kelsay, Iowa City Police Department. I know many of you, I've dealt with you before. You're here because you are aware of the incident that occurred earlier this morning. I just want to go through it real briefly, and then I'll be glad to try to answer some of your questions. With the students back in town and classes due to resume, Iowa City Police Department had some extra officers on foot patrol downtown. We also had officers that were paired with University of Iowa Police Department officers, so we did have a presence down here. At about 1:29, a number of officers heard what they very quickly identified as multiple shots fired in the Ped Mall. It was in the area of the walkway near the ATM, where it cuts from the Ped Mall over to in front of the Sheraton. Officers responded. There was a large group of people there. There were hundreds of people in the area. Officers were able to detain a number of individuals that appeared to be leaving or that were just in the area. Very quickly found 3 victims, one right here on the Ped Mall just inside the walkway, and 2 were observed walking through the walkway and into the Dubuque Street ramp out on Dubuque Street. One collapsed on the sidewalk in front of the ramp, and one actually made it into the ramp before he was attended to with his injuries. In all, we have 3 victims, all of the shooting. They were all transported to one of the area hospitals. One of those subjects, as of about 5 o'clock, was still in surgery and was in critical condition. The other 2 at the time, I'm being told, were in stable condition, again, all with gunshot injuries. We did detain a number of individuals and took them to the Iowa City Police Department to be interviewed to determine what, if any, role they had. Some of those interviews continue. Certainly the investigation will continue well beyond tonight, but at least 2 of those persons that we have detained for questioning will be charged this evening for firearms offenses and for their role in what happened tonight. Since those charges have not yet been filed, those persons are still in the police department. I am not going to at this time release their names, but you should look for that happening. You should see those charges appearing. You should see those individuals being taken to the sheriff's office, the Johnson County Jail, within the next several hours. The University of Iowa sent out a hawk alert, which I thought was extremely appropriate. That hawk alert went out, I believe, approximately 3 months after the first officer called this in. Again, the Ped Mall was full of hundreds of users, many of those students. And it was very, very appropriate to send that out. That also triggered a number of calls to the police department from concerned parents wanting to know if their student was involved. They couldn't reach their student. I want to assure all those parents now, or anybody that might be hearing or reading this story when they wake up this morning, that none of the victims are University of Iowa students. Also, I'd like to comment that this appears to be some bad feelings between 2 separate groups of individuals. One group was in town to socialize in Iowa City, but came from another community, and the other group is mostly people who live in Iowa City. The animosity and the gunshots were between those 2 groups. It was not something random that occurred down here on the Ped Mall. So while we, the police department and the community, are very fortunate that we had a number of shots fired, basically a bar closed down on the Ped Mall. No students were injured. 3 persons were hit. One of those is in critical condition. But again, the violence seems to be contained between these 2 groups and focused on these 2 groups. Any questions?
When you say groups, are you thinking possibly gang-related, or?
I'm not willing to say that at all. Just, you know how I don't care whether they're students or persons coming in from out of town. You tend to travel downtown to do your socialization with people that you know, a group of people. So might there be some gang ties? No, that wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not meaning to say that when I say groups.
There's also a hawk alert on East Market Street. Is that related, do you believe, or do you think that was a separate incident?
It is not related. That was in relation to a robbery that happened, and it happened immediately following this incident. 2 completely separate events. I do not have much information on that. Frankly, I've been focused on this.
Any idea what the animosity was between those 2 groups of people?
I do not. these are the people that were involved in one fashion or another, the people that we detained and interviewed, and our victims are people that the Iowa City Police Department and the Cedar Rapids Police Department are very familiar with. So they're known to one another, even if the individuals don't necessarily know one another, the groups.
Do we know the number of shots fired, or is that still not to be determined?
We have 3 victims, so you know it had to be at least 3 on a number of shots fired. I mean, it was the individual. We have one individual who we know was responsible for at least some of those shots fired. He's admitted that he did that, and he gave us the reasons. He told us that he was responsible for firing a number of the shots. He gave us his justification for doing that, but it was quite a number of shots.
So was it just the one gunman then? It was just only one armed person?
We actually recovered several firearms. I'm not going to comment on just how many, but persons on both sides of this incident, in both groups, we seized firearms from another individual.
You guys still looking for more people potentially involved in this?
Absolutely. We may or may not, forced and talked to, have identified and spoken with everybody that was involved. I doubt it personally. We're also trying to clarify what happened. We have conflicting stories. 2 people who were together, they're giving different accounts of how they came to be there and where they were going. So we're trying to sort out exactly what the truth is. We're trying to find the truth and hold the person responsible or the people responsible for this accountable.
Of those 3 individuals who were injured, do you know if they were part of one of those 2 groups? Or,
yes.
Okay, so they weren't any innocent bystanders, so to speak.
I'm not going to say they weren't innocent. I'm not going to say that they deserve to be shot.
Sure,
that is absolutely not the case. But they were with one of the groups that the other group was directing this violence against.
Do you feel like people of the neighborhood are safe at this point?
Yes and no, and I'm going to qualify that. I do not believe this was a random event. I don't believe that had you or I been down here that we would have been targeted somehow. But you have shots ringing out in the Ped Mall. That is never a good thing. There were hundreds of people down here. People could have been hurt. We were on top of it immediately and contained it, and I believe swept up many of the persons who were responsible. That said, I'm a police officer and enough of a realist to know that sometimes events like this trigger further events in the future, whether they be next weekend or the weekend after that. So what you will see is an increased presence by the Iowa City Police Department, and I believe with our partners, the University of Iowa Police Department down here to try to prevent that and be on top of it.
So when you say groups and you know who they are, you know at least some of them, could you give a little more information on what a group might mean? I mean, there's a group as a broad category.
Sure, and the question came out earlier about whether this was gang related. The movie version of what a gang is not what is seen in eastern Iowa. It does not tend to be that rigid structure. An individual might associate with this particular group, what some people might call a gang, on one day, and a week later be associated with another group. So there's a criminal element to it, or criminal activity, I should say, that is often done by these groups. But I would stop short of calling them gangs. They don't have a lot of respect for the law, some of them, and well, clearly they're pulling out weapons and firing in the Ped Mall.
Do you have any reason to believe this might be related to some of the recent shootings in Cedar Rapids?
I believe that it is. These same people are involved in some of the incidents that are happening in Cedar Rapids. I don't know that this was follow-up or anything like that. The young man who was killed in the pursuit 2 nights ago now, up in Cedar Rapids, he was somebody that is known to frequent with some of these people.
Troy, I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Since you and I have been friends a long time, did officers catch any shooters, any of them in Johnson County Jail?
We caught 2 people this evening that at least one of them we believe is responsible for shooting. That we will be charging both of them, and 2 of them will end up in the Johnson County Jail before the day is done.
I have no further questions, Troy.
Anyone else?
You mentioned that the second group was from outside the area, was visiting. Do you have any idea where they were visiting from?
For us, like I said, like I tried to
Yeah.
explain over here, it isn't as easy to say, well, this was a Cedar Rapids group and this was an Iowa City group. There were members in one group that were from both Iowa City and Cedar Rapids and probably other places. There was a more local group that, again, was primarily Iowa City people, but I don't know that there weren't people from other communities also. So it's hard for me to say that. That's why I say it's not, you know, we're the east side and we're the west side or something. It isn't as simple as that. These are groups that are known to each other. They socialize with each other. Sometimes they get along, sometimes they don't. The individuals cross lines, and again, on any given night or any given week, are socializing in Cedar Rapids or Iowa City. But these are people that are very well known to Iowa City Police and Cedar Rapids Police.
Based on what you said about that they know each other and you know them, do you feel like there's an escalation between these groups, or is it just the nature of their relationship?
I am concerned that there could be an escalation, and that's why you will see an increased police presence here. When somebody gets shot, I don't know what the beef was tonight, but police weren't called. It was handled between them here on the street. And when that happens, my concern is that it will happen again. So you will see an increased presence by the Iowa City Police. I've had conversations with Director Scott Becker from the University of Iowa Police Department, and we were already partnering with their patrol units because of the influx of students. And I'm confident that you will see that continue and to their ability to staff and actually increase. So my hope would be that that presence would keep it from occurring, or to at least displace it out of our community. That retaliation.
You mentioned the one shooter admitted to it and said he had the reasons. Is this a planned confrontation then between these two groups, or they happen on each other down?
There's no indication that this was a planned confrontation. These are individuals and groups of individuals that are frequently in the Ped Mall. I mean, this is a very social atmosphere. Iowa City is a great place to come and socialize, regardless of whether you're a student or whatever.
I got one question for you. The shooting that took place here in Johnson County, are they white guys or black guys?
All of the individuals who were transported to the hospital and the 2 individuals who will likely be charged, those 5 individuals are black males. But there were white males that were, or white individuals that were detained also as part of this investigation. Anyone else? I'm sorry I'm being vague, guys. I'm trying to share what I can so that you can get the story out. We are still very early. I mean, this is very preliminary stages of the investigation. I want to commend my patrol officers as well as the University of Iowa patrol officers who were down here and were running towards the gunfire and chasing down people who very likely were responsible for it and taking them into custody. I also want to thank the Johnson County Sheriff's Office and the State Patrol, both of whom had units down here on scene and were helping control the scene probably before I even got the call, but certainly before I got down here. Everybody was a great asset. You can see by the varying cascading lines of police tape that we were pushing people back. But again, I want to stress, hundreds of people in the Ped Mall, law enforcement was on top of it, and had it, the suspects, or at least some of the suspects, in custody moments after this occurred.
Troy, do you know how soon you might be able to reopen the Ped Mall when people can start coming down again?
I think that we will probably open, if not probably this first line. The second barrier is down more by Brothers. Our actual scenes where we're recovering evidence such as shell casings or where our victims were, that might be a little longer, but I would hope that we could get it all processed certainly by Monday morning, but I would hope by early at this point.
One more question, Troy. Did officers return fire?
No. No, officers did not take fire, nor did they return fire. Yes, sir.
How do you know these groups were frequent?
They're known to our officers. Again, our officers know them. Our foot patrol units down here, our street crime units down here see these individuals and these groups in the plaza. Many of them have They're known to law enforcement. Many of them have criminal records. I might not know you if I saw you in the plaza, but if you were arrested several times for assaulted behavior or drug-related offenses or weapons-related offenses, I'd start to remember your face. Anyone else? All right. I would not look for another media release on this. As persons are charged, I will ask if there be an updated media release put out, but you know that sometimes there's a delay in that, so you may want to just keep track of it. Again, I would expect 2 people to be charged yet today. If there's any significant developments in the investigation, additional information will be put out. Sergeant Scott Gardy, our public information officer, will be in Monday morning, and hopefully we'll be able to do any cleanup for me that you all require. Okay. Thank you kindly. Thanks for all coming out on early
Actually,
Sunday
real
morning.
quick, Troy, will
Sure.
they update us on the condition of the victims too, or was that a UIHC?
I don't know. I mean, they typically do not put out updates because of HIPAA. We may. I wouldn't. If somebody, if for instance, someone were to die or something like that, possibly would update it, and it would likely you'd see that reflected in the charge too.
But like the victim in surgery, for example, we won't know.
Correct. Probably your best place to get an update on that would be Monday morning from the Sergeant Guard.
Okay.